Now, Malcolm, I thought it would be useful for you to talk to the audience about what the difference is between a county council and the Borough Council, especially in terms of responsibility for environmental matters. What is it you can do on the environment as being part of the Borough Council you can't do on the county level?
Well, thankfully in the last number of years, both the Borough and the County Council have crossed over in terms of shared services in areas such as planning, water and environmental issues and housing. The Borough is a very narrow functional area. If you click on the DED of Kilkenny Borough Council, the population is about 8,500, whereas the environs of the city covers far more than that. The population is about 27,000, the population of the county about 80,000. Therefore, I think the Borough would normally have just been involved in parks and recreational amenity, horticulture, the upgrade of the public realm, and would have a certain function in waste management, but that would have been mostly farmed out to the County Council. The County Council now has the main function for water quality and sanitation and for waste services. But increasingly both local authorities are using a shared services model. I think Kilkenny's not alone in doing this, but I think we've developed a pretty good model of shared services in terms of how both local authorities function. We have an environmental awareness officer who deals with the liaison with the schools and the businesses and the wider community in getting that environmental awareness message out there. So I think that's basically there's not a huge difference between both.
But so you can participate through the county council as well in all those issues.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, you can, and the range of debate at county council level is far broader, and you have to be conscious that even though you're elected from the Kilkenny City electoral area, you're there to represent Callan, Hilltown, Castlecomer, all of these other areas. And I got embroiled in a controversy over Tesco in Callan over a retail multiple a number of years ago, and I was told by Callan people that I had no right to be interfering in their area, but I felt it was wrong for the area. Again, a lot of the argument we were putting forward is borne out now because the farmers are protesting against these retail multiples, and I felt it would have damaged the integrity of the old town of Callan. And these are hard arguments to win, but it's just one example, I suppose, of where you have to show due responsibility to the entire county and not just your own narrow interest of where people vote you in from.
It's interesting because that's actually a good transition into talking about sustainable development at the local level, which I think is what we can talk about for the rest of the time, because I think that's the critical issue. I mean, we all know as of 2008, half the people in the world are now living in urban areas for the first time. And I think it's expected to go up to 70% by 2050. And the projections for Dublin is it'll have 40% of the population of the country in 2021. So the cities are a major player in the issues on climate change and so forth. Can you give us a sense of what you mean, what is meant by sustainable development?
Okay, well, I suppose it's a sustainable use of resources for starters. You have the narrow Brundtland definition of it, which is protecting the rights of future generations and all that. But again, it's the three pillars of sustainable development: the economic, social, and environmental. And it's I see it as a rational use of resources that facilitates facilitates providing a good quality of life to communities, and it's also has an element of I suppose strong participative local decision making as well, whereas a lot of the decision making that takes place at present is very much top down nationally and internationally. And I think where we've heard in the last number of weeks there's talks in the European Union about sustainable growth. It's that in itself you really can't have sustainable growth, and sustainable development is about I think creating some sort of a steady state economy where resources are used rationally and there's an equal distribution of wealth as well.
And now this all grows out of, I mean, a lot of the work in sustainable development at the local level comes out of Agenda 21, right?
Yeah.
And could you give the audience a sense of what Agenda 21 was and where it came from?
Well, it came out of the Rio Earth Summit in 1992, and it was Agenda 21 was a proclamation on how sustainable development should be implemented. It should be implemented at local level, where it can be most effectively felt. And it was in Ireland, local authorities were given the function, and as right across Europe and the world, local authorities were seen as key players, key drivers of sustainable development, and key drivers of Agenda 21 as a process of delivering that sustainable development. And largely in the European Union, it's been taken up very, very seriously by a lot of local authorities and regional authorities, and they've taken it on as a core plank of their activity, of their work.
Mm-hmm.
In Ireland, if you mention Local Agenda 21 to some council officials, they don't know what it is.
And funny enough, because the National Sustainable Development Strategy in 1997 required the appointment of a local agenda officer. And
that's right, yeah.
Did it ever happen?
In our own case here, we had an Agenda 21 officer, but it was an ancillary function to another. There were community development officer, which responsibility for Local Agenda 21. Mm-hmm. In other local authorities, it was taken on more seriously, but it seemed to have really fallen by the wayside because that strategy, like you said, is 1997. Mm-hmm. There's been reviews of that strategy, but there's never been an updated sustainable development strategy. I suppose what would come close would be the National Climate Change Strategy, but it's not really been taken on, while the principles have, certainly, through community enterprise sections of local authorities. Local Agenda 21 itself, I don't think, has been taken on. The ethos of it has been taken on very strongly.
And what's Kilkenny doing with regard to sustainable development? What kind of projects do you have something called the Aalborg Charter?
Yeah, the Aalborg Charter is which is the Sustainable Towns and Cities campaign, and we became one of a few local authorities in Ireland have signed the charter. We went a stage further last year where we put it in as a core plank of our city and environment development plan, and I think we're probably the first to do that. And it really is it's a roadmap. It's a 10-point plan for local authorities and how they deliver sustainable development in areas such as water, transportation, in food, and in terms of community development and the active participation of communities. And we set out a baseline study which we furnished to the Secretariat, and annual action plans on how we deliver sustainable development. So it's just a good way of having indicators and targets and being able to cross-check our policies to see if they fit with the Aalborg principles.
And the Aalborg, it comes from a town in Denmark where it was founded.
That's right, yeah.
And now it also requires keeping the citizenry informed about those targets, and
it does. Yeah.
And how does Kilkenny do that? Are there forums, or how do you do that?
There would be fora where it's referenced in various fora. True, we have a community and voluntary forum, which is a kind of an umbrella organisation for all of the small community and voluntary organisations. Mm-hmm. And there's in the city we've got a group that represents all the community development projects and family resource centres. Mm-hmm. And all of these they wouldn't be kept that informed on it, but they are the key drivers in their own areas of community development. And I think that when we go back to Agenda 21, I think they were seen as the main ways of getting the whole issue of sustainable development into communities, into disadvantaged areas in particular, and to where you have the largest cohort of people. So I suppose we've been using various means in public forums and public meetings to use Aalborg to as a way of showing the public what the local authority are trying to do.